one thing that I think helps make the conventions easier for sure, because that information is usually plastered right behind them.
Yeah, absolutely. They're normally wearing the shirt of their company with a name tag that says their first and last and their position, and you can get quite a lot pretty quickly with just that information.
Mm.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we're gonna kind of start wrapping things up here, and as we do that, and though we talked about some, would like to dive in a little bit more in terms of some other lessons learned. One that I'm actually kind of curious about, and is just people, often think that partnerships or relationships, in the industry themselves are more so along with publishers and financiers and marketers and all those things around, indie games. But I was wondering, and it's completely cool if you can't think of any off the top of your head or whatever, are there any kind of examples that you have seen, or that either you or others have established that aligned with objectives that weren't typical to the norm? And what I'm talking specifically here about is, like, I'll give you an example. One of our past guests had this happen where he's launching a Kickstarter for a game called Bacon Man, and when during the campaign he ended up forming a partnership with Denny's because I guess at the end it aligned with the audiences that they were both catering to. So I was just curious, like, from a biz dev and partnership or even relationship perspective, has there been anything that you've been involved to that degree or have seen? And I'm just curious about it. And yeah.
Well, we try to do out of the box creative marketing, especially when it comes to conventions. We always like to add a little bit of that extra flair to our projects, and so just thinking about a couple E3s in a row, and just even in how we work with trailers, we often use a lot of actors, and we've only used them for these certain instances, but we've formed relationships with for one E3 we had a couple really big Norwegian guys walking around for our game called Star Vikings, and we created these signs for them to essentially be traffic police, because we found you could actually do that without a permit, and so they had big signs that looked like stop signs but with our branding on both sides, and they were dressed as space Vikings. And so we've maintained a lot of relationships with actors over the years. In 2018 for E3, we actually built an arcade machine, and so we started forming pretty good relationships with just local arcade groups, I guess. And
Okay, cool.
There's this one arcade repair guy around town that helped us refurbish this arcade machine, and then he was actually the one that picked up the machine and took it to several of the conventions that we went to. And it's I never would have ever had a relationship with this guy, but we dove into his world, right, by doing arcade machines, and he just was like a go-to person that I used for a few years to work on that arcade machine and do maintenance for it. Wow. And to transport it.
That's awesome. Cool. Those are some really good ones there.
Yeah, so one thing I wanted to ask certainly is, David, I think you provided a lot of examples of, once again, some great do's and don'ts, some areas of where people might find themselves surprised by the success of certain things as well. So to kind of tie it together, how would you define kind of success in this area for an indie studio? Like, what would you say would make a studio successful at their sort of business development?
Yeah, so for me, I feel like I try to amplify the marketing campaign and bring something bring opportunities to the table that the team won't be able to get on their own, right? We have someone that handles social media, we have someone that handles community management, we have someone that handles press and influencers, and we have a producer that's a marketing producer. We even have someone that works on the store pages and optimizes the store pages. And so for me, as the biz dev, I try to just bring unique opportunities to the table. And sometimes that could mean money and injecting extra money into the project, whether, generally both for the developer and us as the publisher. That can be, different events or showcases that I'm able to leverage. That can be, we went to PAX and we were partnered with NZXT, and we got computers at the show, and we had sponsored computers that we had at our booth. Nice. For the show. And that, that was just one less stressor that the team had to worry about or figure out logistically. So for me, and just in general, kind of what I see my role as on the team is letting everyone kind of focus in the areas that they specialize in, right? And do their thing, but try to maybe catch things that they miss, as well as bring extra opportunities that can support them and that can kind of amplify their efforts.
Awesome. And I really like that example too, because again, it's just another good one in terms of like what you're saying, amplify your marketing campaign. And that was a great example of how, like, typically people think about marketing campaign. Okay, so, whether it's an organic Twitter campaign or things like that, like you even provided a great example in terms of, hey, this is a way you can think outside the box. It's not just about this one thing that you might be used to. There's other ways to, do it. And, you got these sponsored computers. It was helping them out too. So again, great way to go about it.
Absolutely. And again, I went back to what do they want out of it, right?
Yep,
they want us to talk about their product. They want us to showcase their product. So we put, placards up. We had, postcards that had information on getting a discount on some of their hardware. So we were advertising for them, and then they provided all the computers for us, which honestly is a hassle when you're going to conventions.
Yep.
So
absolutely. All right. So, as we close here, are there any, are there 3 tips or suggestions that you could, recommend to indie devs to kind of take action with based on what we talked about today?
Personalize and really try to craft, your pitch and what you say and what you do to the person. Be passionate about it and really show that you care about what they're doing, or care even what about you're doing, when you're talking to them. And I think be proactive and driven, and really, you have to seek out opportunities, and you have to think outside. I guess a bonus is think outside the box, right?
Yeah.
Those are some of the things that I use just in my everyday that I really, even our company is really driven by.
Awesome. And those are all great ones to follow. So thank you. All right. So as we close here, I would just like you first to, what are some ways people can get in contact with you or learn more about Akupara Games? But before we do that, I'd love for you to share, some titles of yours that you guys, just recently published, got out there, or anything that's top of mind for you that you would love to share about the games that you have worked on recently.
Yeah. So September 3rd, a couple of weeks ago, we released Spinch, which is a psychedelic 2D platformer, kind of Super Meat Boy on drugs.
Nice.
And next week, we're releasing into early access a game called Gone Viral, which is a gladiator hack and slash roguelike game built by the team that worked on WildStar. The other 2 upcoming games that we've announced are The Dark Side Detective Season 2, which is a sequel to the critically acclaimed The Dark Side Detective, which is a point-and-click comedy horror game, and also a game called Grime, which is a Souls-like Metroidvania. It's going to be really cool. That's coming out later next year.
Oh, sweet. So,
and you can find us on all social media platforms at Akupara Games. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, Discord, Instagram, YouTube, everything /AKA or AKUPA. I can't even spell my own company. AKUPARA Games.
All right, awesome. So everyone, you heard the games that David mentioned. I checked some of them out before the show. They looked pretty cool, especially Grime really stood out to me. But yeah, make sure you do as well too. And obviously, if you have any questions for David, just reach out. Go to this site. We'll provide links in the show notes and everything else. So again, David, I just really wanted to thank you so much for being on the show. I think it not only did it provide a great amount of value to everybody here today, but I even feel better about areas that I can go move forward with and build up some of my relationships a little bit more and everything else. And it's never like an ending process. So again, I just love the fact that you just shared so much with us, because there's definitely a lot to take away with it.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This was really enjoyable. Again, loved the questions you asked, and I'm looking forward to, if anyone hears this on their show and they want feedback or advice, please feel free to get in touch with me as well.
Awesome. Well, David, thanks again, and we really appreciate you being here. Hey, everyone, and thank you for listening to another episode of Indie Game Movement. I'm Andrew Pappas, your host, and the show's producer is Mustafa Price. A special thanks to Taisuke Kimura for creating the show's theme and Donnie Wilson for the logo design. If you enjoy and value the content, you can support us by visiting our Patreon, which is patreon.com/IGM podcast, and select a tier that meets your needs. Show notes for this episode can be found by visiting rengenmarketing.com/the number of this episode. Rengen Marketing is a consulting marketing company that helps indie devs with their marketing efforts. So if you're looking for helpful marketing content or marketing plan template for your current game, then please visit rengenmarketing.com. And as always, thanks for being such great listeners, and we'll see you next time on Indie Game Movement.